you need to have a pain that like really motivates you. It was a really dark time. I still remember this day. Like, I sat down on my bed and I just wept because it is very f***ing lonely. It was just an idea. Let's Level Up was built from a problem that we had. We want to tackle this skilling crisis. How do I get myself out there in the world? And that is the number one problem that anybody has. How do I get leads? And how do I convert those leads into paying clients? That's fundamentally what Let's Level Up solves for at the very core. This is a near approaching $1 trillion industry.
No way.
And that is why owning your audience has become the most important skill set that you can do today. One person is now on track to doing $1 million a year in her business. It's an addiction to see that level of output.
Nothing is a bigger validation than that.
Because if I can change outcomes like this is what I want to do. Life could be very different. You have to first go through the shit to then talk about the shit. And we've gone through hell and we've learned it. And that misinformation that I faced could have costed me being here versus me going back home. These are the times where you look back and you're like, this is it, it's over. And it's scary.
Varun, thank you so much for joining me yet again, but in the new edition of Immigrant Founders Pod. Before we get into anything, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Thanks, Asim. No, I think I said this in the last podcast. I'm saying it again because I think it's important. It's like a full circle moment for me. We've known each other for about 5-6 years now, and you've seen me through a lot of my journey, and you've been on my podcast a couple of years back. You were one of my first few guests, and now I'm here. So full circle moment. So thank you for having me. I've always said this, you're more like a brother to me than anything else. So I appreciate you calling me back here. Wonderful setup. And I'm seeing you grow as well. So it's just fascinating to be on that journey with you. As for introduction, my name is Varun. I am originally from India, came here to study, stayed on and building my business right now. Let's Level Up. We can obviously go into it in detail, but I'm the co-founder of Let's Level Up. Yeah, that's my introduction. I'm sure you'll have questions and stuff, so we can run with that.
Thank you, Varun. And thank you for your kind words. You've always been kind to me as well. And I reciprocate. You are also like a brother to me. I think it's been interesting, the last couple of years, all the ups and downs. We've also survived COVID together. Sadly, we didn't get to spend as much time during that time. And I think that goes for most of us. But it's been interesting to see your growth. It's been interesting to see how you've also changed from few businesses until you've come to the place you are. I was quite intrigued and also quite fascinated to see you the first time speak on stage, because we were in Warwick University and you're obviously a student at Warwick. And I had my talk, and after that you had your talk as well. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised with your confidence, with your gravitas. And I think that has only grown exponentially, I would say, over the years. So congratulations.
Appreciate it.
First of all.
Thank you.
Let's get into it. I mean, obviously the premise of this podcast and the journey that I'm embarking now is from my own personal experience and personal struggles. I'm also an immigrant in the UK, and being an entrepreneur is difficult. I think being an immigrant entrepreneur comes with a different level of difficulties.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to come to a place where I was able to speak to like-minded people who've, gone through the same journey and the same struggles. I think loneliness is a big aspect to that. And I know I was really lonely. And I think now it's from a premise where I can expand my network, be a little less lonelier, but also learn from other entrepreneurs, how you've built success and how can I use that in my own business, and hopefully that inspires other people listening to this pod as well. So let's start with your immigrant journey. Take me back a little bit. Why did you move to the UK? And when you came to the UK, I know you were a student at Warwick University, just on that.
So I grew up in Bombay, Mumbai, and I studied, till the 12th grade. I did my sort of schooling back home. And at school, it was always ingrained that, success or sort of so-called success looks like you doing your grade 12 and then moving out of the country to do your undergraduate. And that was like something that I also aspired to. I thought I knew what I wanted to study back in high school, which I thought was economics because I was just good at it. But it so happened that I took a gap year, which was one of the best decisions I made. Not necessarily because that gap year necessarily transformed my life, but it did in a unique way because it helped me understand what I didn't like doing. And so by a process of elimination, I realized that actually economics wasn't something that I wanted to study. My goal was always to land up in the US to study. I was one of those, kids that wanted to sort of chase that Ivy League dream. I had, a lot of the sort of ducks, as they say, lined up in a row. A few things didn't come through. And as a result of that, I was not able to achieve that dream of mine of going to an Ivy League school for my undergraduate studies. And so as a result, I looked at other options, and UK was one of them. Canada was the other. And I chose the UK for two reasons. One, it's relatively more cost effective because it's a 3-year degree, not a 4-year. And one of the key reasons why I chose the UK was it was closer to home. It's only a 4.5, maybe 5.5 hour difference. So calling mom and dad and calling family was, and that's a big thing for me. Family is a big thing. And when you said loneliness, I think that's something that like really pains me every day actually, is waking up and not being able to be with family. And so that's kind of the reason why UK was the place to be. And so I think that was why, just to answer your question in a long-winded way, that's why the UK, and that's why I landed up studying there. I went to Warwick University, did a degree in business and technology, graduated from the Warwick Business School. While I was at Warwick, I started, a business, as you know. I think that's where we first met. It was called Connect Us. Connect Us later I exited that sort of project, and now it lives on in Warwick under the Enactus Warwick umbrella. And from there, I went on to build what I'm now building, Let's Level Up. So the immigration journey has been extremely hard. One of the key stressors, even till today in my life, is the fact that like I'm on a visa, there's so much uncertainty. And I think that like just creates even more uncertainty in life. And I don't think that's spoken about. It's not only the fact that you're running a business and there's career uncertainty, but there's also uncertainty around visa and like what that looks like. And, in the next couple of years when you have to renew your visa, what does that look like? And so it's hard. And every day you face the worries, the doubts, the concerns. And I think when you said loneliness, I think that hit a chord for me, because it is very fucking lonely.
From everything that you've said, what really caught my attention was the key catalyst for you to choose the UK over any other country. I would think it's Bollywood. Because, over the last couple of months, especially, I've been watching a few Bollywood movies, and literally 90% of those movies, every time you have like a out of India type of scene or a shot or a story, it's always London. It's always London for some reason. So I think one of the biggest aspirations, in my opinion, because I never lived in India, is, people who are in India, they at least want, maybe not move, but like come and visit London. So I thought you'd say, oh, it's because of Bollywood movie.
It's so interesting you say that, because I started appreciating Bollywood so much more because I moved to London, but not necessarily because it's London, but more so because you just miss home. And when, Bollywood movies are shot, let's say in like India, like there's that feeling of, that's my home. um same with like language, like, Hindi. I used to not, speak too much Hindi, but like now when I hear Hindi, it's like, oh wow, like let me talk to you in Hindi now. So it's interesting how space and distance from home has made me appreciate home that much more.
Talking about your move to the UK, student entrepreneur, joined Warwick University. So talk me through that whole journey. Like, I mean, how was the switch? How easy, difficult that was? I mean, I'm just coming from a place where, some other students now sitting in India, listening to this pod, thinking, okay, so I want to move to the UK. How do I do it? What's the first step? And how costly or not it is also, because I mean, when you look at, moving to the Western world, especially for, South Asian families, it's not that easy. Obviously, there's a huge cost element to it as well. So yeah, if you can talk me through that.
Yeah. It's way, like when you talk about like cost, moving to a place like the UK is relatively less costlier than moving to a place like the US. And it's also just the fact that you're doing it for 3 years rather than 4 years in most cases in an undergraduate degree. Setting aside the cost element, I think it's also very important to see like what and where you're going. And when I say that, it's like, what are the opportunities that you're getting where you're going? So some people move or go from, let's say in India to the UK or to the US or whatever, to like, universities just for the heck of it, because they want to show that they've gone abroad. And I don't think that's the best approach, because, and I'll tell you why. For me, my personal experience, what Warwick did was it gave me a space to fail. They had this Warwick incubator, they had Warwick Enterprise. Unfortunately, Warwick is not sponsoring me to say all of this. I'm just an evangelist in that regard in terms of entrepreneurship, because it was there that I actually started forging like the ability to start failing fast. And I think if you want to build anything and you want to build anything great, the ability to fail fast and fail often is very important, and be okay with it. So they used to give you these funds, these zero equity funds. You can take the money as long as you use it for what you said you used it for. You obviously have to make a pitch and all of that, but that's where you start learning. The initial things of like building a pitch deck, or like how do you present to someone? How do you ask for money? How do you then give them reports on what you're doing with that money? Measuring outcome, dealing with finance. Like those are like, they were like $500 to $1,000 checks that you got. Like retrospectively, that's like tiny compared to like the money that you're managing when you're running a business. But those are the types of things that you learn at university, at least that I learned, that was very crucial for me. Those small, tiny things that help. So obviously the one consideration is like, what do you really want to do, or what do you want to get out of that uni experience? And I think that was great for me because of Warwick, and just sort of started planting the seeds. The other thing I would say is location. For all the lovely things that Warwick is a town, and it's a university town. What I saw at Warwick was, a lot of the times people would socialize, but it would be a lot of partying, drinking, and stuff like that. And while that's great, and if that's the way you like to enjoy yourself, that's amazing. But I'm someone who loves to like sit in and like have deep conversations and like talk and just get to know people. And I just felt like maybe I just didn't find the right crowd initially, which is why I built Connect Us, my first, startup, to help with this exact problem. But that was the only thing that I felt was, and when you move from India, which is a collectivistic culture where people are like, always around you, to a place like the UK, and especially like in Warwick, for example, where, it's a very beautiful place. It's green. There's like a lot of nature. But then that element of like not being, it's so individualistic, to each their own. That's a bit of a shock. And if you, again, don't have that right kind of social circle, And again, I think that's pretty hit or miss. Hopefully Connect Us solves that problem and is solving that problem for people. But it's usually hit or miss, It's like most of the times you land up hanging out with your flatmates that you sort of are randomly allocated, or, in Freshers Week, the connections that you form. And so, if it's a miss, and in my case it was a miss, it becomes relatively that much more lonelier.
Yeah, I'm guessing, maybe for a lot of people, there's more misses than actually hits, because, I can relate. I've been, when I came to the UK, I didn't come as a student, but it was very difficult for me to, create that bond or that relationship with people, especially when you don't have that incubation or that space as well, perhaps, which a university can give you. Taking a step back, so was there like a strategy behind choosing Warwick? Because you spoke about Warwick as a great place, and it gave you that incubation from a startup entrepreneurial mindset, £500,000, whatever that may be. But was there a strategy? You always wanted to build businesses, hence why it was Warwick? Or it was, okay, let me just get out, let me have a university experience out of my home country?
I think the plan was, I didn't really think too much about it in retrospect. And that's funny for me to say, because the Varun now thinks a lot, and maybe that's a problem. But no, there was no like direct plan. Like I said, I think the goal was always to move and live that Ivy League dream, because I worked so many years, while I was at high school, just to get that dream, and that dream never happened. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I was so devastated by the end of it, and I just started applying, and Warwick was like where I got my acceptance pretty quickly. I applied to a bunch of other universities in the UK, got them as well. And I was like, you know what, like Warwick kind of makes sense. I like the course. It does whatever I want to do. I saw the fact that it had like tons and tons of societies there, and like things that you can do off campus. I didn't really know at the time that Warwick was so entrepreneurial. I didn't know that until I actually got into the ecosystem. As for whether I wanted to build a business, there was always an itch to do something of my own. I've had tons of failed businesses back home in India as well. Like, I tried a bunch of stuff, like from like a social media marketing agency where I got my first client and then got fired that, in a couple of weeks, to building, cards, greeting cards, to trying out like a perfume subscription business. I've tried a lot of this stuff. So that knack of like wanting to build stuff has always been there. And, in India, we call it a kida. It was that kida, to do something. And so that was always there. But I don't think it was necessarily a driving force to choose the university. I think serendipitously just happened to be Warwick. And it's funny because today when I try and control outcomes, I should remind myself that I'm here because of pure serendipity. And this is a good reminder. So thanks for that question.
Everything happens for a reason. Do
you fundamentally believe that, Asim? Like,
100%. And I also believe there's another layer on top of it. Everything happens for a reason, and whatever happens only happens for your own good. I think
so then why work? Why not just sit and like let life pass by? Like, where do you draw the line between like too much effort and like effort?
Good question. We also need to remind yourself, the reality of life is pretty simple. Input equals output. How much output do you want? So if you want more output, there has to be more input. That's why work. And that's why work harder, because you want a greater output. I always want the greatest output.
But you do believe that the output is predetermined?
I don't think it's predetermined. There's a link to the input. So the output there's a direct correlation to the input.
Right.
So it's determined based on the input. If my input is high, my output would also be high. If my input is low, my output will be low. I think I would be delusional to think I would just give minimum effort and expect a great output. Yeah. I mean that is just going to cause stress and anxiety for no reason. Why am I not succeeding? Why don't I have this what this other person has? Okay, you need to look at the input. So from that perspective, and I think just coming back to Warwick, I think Warwick is interesting. Sadly, they're not paying me also for this podcast, but I think Warwick University really was a great reminder to me as well when I came did the talk in the university when we first met.
Yeah.
Because as you know already, and for other people listening to this podcast, I'm a high school dropout. And for me to come to Warwick University and have, come in as a guest speaker and sitting in that boardroom, the classroom kind of environment, and standing in a place where a faculty would stand, I think that was really empowering for me as well. So, and I think since that day on, only good things have happened. Obviously, we met, and off the back of that, I met some other Warwick students as well. I'm still in touch with quite a few of them. One of them, your co-founder, Luke. Let's not forget Luke. And things have just grown from that on, from that day on. So Warwick, if you're listening, please just make sure this podcast is going to go on, and we'll be happy to take any sponsorships from you. Luke will be more than happy to come back again and speak about whatever you want them to speak about. But anyway, coming back to us. So from that time, you talk me through your first business through Warwick, Connectors. So you built Connectors from a place of your own struggle, loneliness, pain. It's great that the business still lives on in Warwick. And I think as an entrepreneur, we should be focusing on solving a problem which somehow is bigger than you. So now technically it is living on even after you're gone. Thankfully you're still here in flesh and blood, but you're not involved in that business anymore. And I think that's a huge win. So, Connectors, if you can start there, and what were the pain points, and what was your problem? What was your pain? What were you trying to solve? And how did that evolve into a successful business?
So before this podcast started, Rick, before we were having a quick chat before the recording started, you said, you need to have a pain that like really motivates you. I found myself in Warwick, like I still remember this day, like I sat down on my bed and I just wept because I just felt so lonely. I was, I'm a competitive badminton player, so I represented Warwick. So I was doing badminton and I was doing my studies, and so you'd think that at least you'd meet people, and the more I started meeting people, the lonelier I started feeling. And I was like, where's that core group of people that I can just call friends? Because I had that at school. So why can't I have that here? And in that mindset, you're almost like thinking, oh my God, my core group that was there is now no longer there. And now I don't have anybody. And that's a very weird feeling to even go back to, because you feel very lonely, and it's a different feeling than being alone, because you can enjoy being alone. Feeling lonely is a feeling of lack, and that's a feeling that I was not used to, or at least not used to in the extent to which I had. So I said, you know what, let me try different mediums. So Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, all of those things were not my cup of tea. Like I was not gonna go down that path, but I wanted to meet people and just have a genuine connection with them. And so meetup.com was one of these. The closest thing to even remotely meeting someone, because it's a town, was this old granny's book club reading in Leamington Spa, which was like an hour and a half away. I was like, this is just, I'm not going to do that. No, I love hanging out with older people, but like that was just not something I wanted at the time. And so then I said, what do I do? And incidentally, again, talking about serendipity, at Warwick University, there was this Warwick incubator. And so what they would do is they would take on a bunch of startups. Obviously, you have to get selected. I think like 10 startups across campus would get selected for this program. It would be, a 12-month program. And they teach you how to build a business through workshops and calling people over and whatnot. And I said, I'm going to try it out. But I said, like, what is the idea? Like, I want to try this thing, but like, I need an idea. And I was like, hold on, I actually have an idea. Because there's a pain, and rather than moaning about it, I want to do something about it. Like, the beauty about entrepreneurship is it challenges you to look at the world in a way where it's like, instead of saying, oh my God, there's a problem, it's like, oh wow, there is a problem and I now want to solve it. And so one thing led to the next, and I said, I'm going to solve this problem. This problem is student loneliness. I'm affected by it deeply. I want to solve this. And through that process, if I make friends, hallelujah. That's what I did. And so Connect House was born. It went through several iterations, but eventually what it came down to was a psychology-based algorithm that connected you to 3 to 5 people on campus for specific events. And so what we did was then we started tying up with societies. Warwick had tons of societies. And societies are a great way to organize people because, if you like magic, there's a magic society. So you meet, there's already a base core interest. And so you then can match people even more effectively because, well, there's already something to talk about. You have a finance society because there's finance. And so we said, there's already a base layer of interest that people are going to that society for. Let's now take that one step further and say, can I now match 3 to 5 people that would then create even more of an interest? And so we impacted in a span of about a couple of months from pivoting from one thing to the other. We got about 500 plus people. Several of them, one of the greatest joys of this time, and actually one of my fondest memories at Warwick was I was going to this career fair and I was walking up these stairs and there's this one person that says, "Hey Varun, are you the founder of Connect Us?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, wait, one just give me 1 minute. And I was like, okay. And then she brings her friend and says, because of Connect Us, I've now found a best friend.
No way.
And I was like, fuck.
That's amazing.
Like, and I got goosebumps because it was like, wait, so something that I thought of, that I implemented, now has an outcome.
That's amazing.
And it's happened more than once. And I was like, this is it. Like, I want to build. I just really want to build. Because if I can change outcomes like this is what I want to do. And hopefully I'm able to figure out a way to do this more. And so at the time, because you're on a student visa, you can't raise funds. In one way, I'm glad that I didn't raise funds for Connect Us, because as a business model, it may not have survived, or at least I didn't have the conviction that it would, but to the level that I wanted it to be. But what you could do, and this is where the beauty of Warwick came in, again, very grateful for them, is they had these bunch of like funds, like, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, a couple of grand there, a few $100 here. And so I would just continually keep pitching. And obviously you'd fail and you try again and you keep pitching. Because eventually if you wanted to build an app or something, you'd need some money, but you couldn't raise money because you're on a visa. So you could get these funds, these student grants, as they would call it, that were to just explore a project. And so that's how I built Connect Us, from scraping together these funds. And one thing led to the next, and Connect Us actually became a thing. So that's the story in a nutshell.
That's amazing. I mean, the example you give of this woman who saw you in the fair and then brought her friend, I think as an entrepreneur, so revenue is important, right? So revenue really is a validation of the success of your business. Like, I mean, revenue is the lifeline of any business. But I don't know about you, but for me, nothing is a bigger validation than that. Simply because somehow you're able to see the fruit of your effort come to life. Like, I mean, that is a person you can touch and feel is in your space. Like, that is the biggest validation ever.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Even in the work that we do with Let's Level Up today, the beauty, like even when you look at reviews that we've had, people have been able to pay off their mortgages.
Wow.
People
That's
are
impressive.
now quitting their full-time, careers. People are quitting their full-time jobs that they don't necessarily like to pursue the dream because of the work that we're doing. People are being able to go on vacations that they never thought they could. And that is beautiful. It's an addiction to see that level of output, that something in your head that you have hypothesized has A, got funding, B, has got people now that are, building this baby with you, or rocket ship, and then C, the fact that whatever the work that you're doing has now had outcomes so dramatic. One person is now on track to doing $1 million a year in her business.
Wow.
Because of what we've been working with her on. Like, it just, the level of satisfaction that gives you, not because of the outcome of monetary value, but from what that monetary value does for someone. I don't think anything can substitute that level of like, and you feel those goosebumps because it was just an idea.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think, and it's also important for us to remind ourselves, just backtrack, from a point of just being kind to ourselves, and because being an entrepreneur every single day, oh my God, I need to do more. Yes, you need to do more, but it's also important for you to remind yourself how far you've come.
It's the hardest thing for me to do.
Yeah, hardest thing for a lot of us to do, but I think also it helps you stay grounded, stay humble, and be grateful. I think that's super important. Like being grateful, I think, is a superpower. Coming back again, I'm coming back from of course, to your Warwick days, before we move into Let's Level Up. So you then moved. How did you do that switch? How did you become like what visa status? How did that change, and how easy or difficult was that? Because I know that you had limitations. You can't raise funds, and now your clock is ticking. You might exit the country. You don't want to exit the country. How did you remain? How did that? And also, did you get any help from the university, or you had to navigate that?
Yeah. So Warwick has this thing called the startup visa that you again have to do an entire application for. And if they think you're worthy of it, they'll give you an endorsement letter that allows you to stay in the country for 2 years. So I went through that entire application process. Again, big stressor for me, because again, like, it's essentially in their hands whether you stay on in the country for 2 years or not, running your company. Because on that visa, then you can set up a whatever, the company and whatnot. So that visa, I think, lasts for about 2 years. And then you have to move on to, I think, the visa that you were on, which was the innovator visa. So by the time the 1.5 years had elapsed, I had to start making preparations. And legislation was going to change. That was the rumor at the time. It kind of did. From the dozens of endorsing bodies, I think now there were only like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And I had a very, almost a 1 week window where I had to figure everything out. Because I didn't know about this. I was not necessarily informed. So I had to do my own research and talk to as many people as I possibly could to say like, what is going on? And I realized that I had 1 week to get an endorsing body to endorse Let's Level Up and make the visa application. So in 1 week, I had to find a endorsing body, write an application, and find a lawyer. And I applied 1 day before the legislation changed. And that misinformation that I faced could have costed me being here versus me going back home.
Wow.
And these are the times where you look back and you're like, life could be very different.
Wow.
And for no fault of mine, I would probably not be here. And it's scary. These are the times where you really feel really alone. So yeah, it was not the best time, really.
Wow. I mean, but coming back to when you do things with the right intent, you do attract the right people in the right circumstances, and hopefully that was
100%.
Also the right circumstance for you. I know it is a little bit tricky. When I was applying as well, I think I was one of the first applicants. I did mine through the NatWest Accelerator, and yeah, I mean, the entire experience was just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, again, sometimes misinformation, sometimes lack of information. And it was also early days. There used to be an entrepreneur visa, then they switched into an innovator visa. And yeah, but I mean, I'm also here. things could have been absolutely different. But yeah, again, you do attract the right circumstances as well. Talking about then this switch to visa, did you then switch the visa off the basis of let's level up?
Yes.
Or was that okay?
So
got it.
The I don't know what the concept is now, but the innovator visa at the time was where you had to make the pitch basis let's level up and what you were doing specifically.
Okay, so now let's start that journey.
Yeah.
Okay, let's level up. You had the idea, someone else had the idea. Let's start from an ideation, and why the idea? What was the pain point there? What was the catalyst of the idea, and who are the founding members, and how did everything start?
Yeah. Let's Level Up started in Luke, my co-founder's living room. He lives in a wonderful village in Kent, and it's one of my favorite places to just hang out because it's away from the city and all you see is like greenery, and it's just a very peaceful place with like sheep, and he's got his dog. A very calm place. It's where ideas germinate. And so I had started a podcast called The Human Entrepreneur, which you were a guest on, one of the first few guests. And that had done pretty well. We got into Apple's top 20 charts in about 1.5 years. And we said, we really like working together. So let's build a company. And that's how, Level Up was anyways born. We were sitting at his living room, and one day, we were like, there's a big problem that I wanted to solve, which was, I just felt like upskilling, skilling. I think we're undergoing this like massive crisis right now. You said, you're a high school dropout, and like when you reflect on why that's the case, it's a lot of the times it's money, but other times it's like you don't fit in, or it's probably not engaging enough, and the trend is continuing. So it's becoming costlier to get educated, but at the same time, it's also what you graduate in is not necessarily preparing you for the future of work. And there's a big discrepancy, and the half-life of skills is dramatically reducing. So by the time you graduate to the time you get a job, the person like in the job itself is having to train you. And so if the purpose of education is to free the mind and to get you employable, is that really happening? Quite questionable. And so the premise of Let's Level Up initially was, we said, we want to tackle this skilling crisis, this upskilling crisis. How do you get people to skill up really quickly, really fast in record time, so that people can continually skill, but also get employable? And because they keep skilling up and getting real world exposure to like project-based learning, we would then, build a community of these people and help them with their jobs and stuff like that. So it was almost like a marketplace model initially, where we would connect the two. So we would have teachers teaching courses, and then students taking the course. Trialed it out for about 3 to 4 courses. We were very fiscally disciplined because we didn't have enough cash at the time. So we said, like, from day one, like, we need to be very focused on revenue and like driving certain decisions basis revenue. So we were not going to like, we were trying to test out stuff, but also we were very focused on like, will people actually pay for this? Because that's a real test of like what you're actually, building. So that was a very basic product. Soon we realized that as a marketplace model, there was a few problems. One is it's incredibly difficult to scale up initially. So once you have critical mass, there's like this really nice flywheel that takes place. But initially it requires upfront capital to actually go in. And we didn't want to necessarily raise that much money at the time, because we thought we could drive a wedge very interestingly in the market because of this next insight that I'm going to share. So as we started doing a lot of research, what we started realizing was that the people that we were working with, the creator, the coaches, the experts, they were anyways taking to social media and building their brands, because there's a wave right now which is coming, and it's going to hit the internet in a very dramatic way, where people are becoming their own brands. And when people start becoming their own brands, they don't want marketplaces, because a marketplace is a lot like, think of it as like a Facebook or an Instagram, where you're building your own communities, you're building your own social media. A marketplace, like you think of like a Udemy or a Skillshare or a Coursera, what they're doing is that they're bringing two sides together, but they have their own algorithms in place. So you don't necessarily control your audience. And what happens is when you start driving traffic, your own traffic, as a creator, as a coach to these platforms, you're actually fueling that platform, not necessarily fueling your own, communities. And what we were seeing was there's a lot of migration that's taking place from these platforms to go and build their own communities through their own white labeled products. So if you're a coach today, or you want to teach people how to, build companies as Asim, you have a following on Instagram, you have a following on LinkedIn, and you're growing that because you see value in it. Now, what you typically would do is you would then build a course to monetize that, or to build a coaching program. And in the yesteryears, you would probably list yourself on a marketplace like this. But what we're also seeing is marketplaces take a cut. So now you're sharing your profit. Marketplaces are governed by rules of algorithms. So today you're their hot topic, tomorrow it'll be somebody else. And so you then don't get listed or you don't make sales. And so then you're being governed by a third party. And Asim doesn't want that because Asim owns the audience. And the way you own the audience is you'll take them off LinkedIn or Instagram, again, because LinkedIn and Instagram is controlled by algorithms. You'll take them off newsletters. Anyway, long story short, what we started realizing was there was this trend of creators, this trend of like, I don't mean TikTok dancers, but I mean genuine people like yourself taking to social media, teaching people, and they wanted a mechanism to monetize. And so what we realized was the tools available to do that in a white label way where you control 100% of your revenue were not there. And so what we decided to do was we said, you know what, this is actually where we want to go to. Because Luke and myself were coaches ourselves. We ran a course, a podcasting course. We knew how to coach. We knew how to sell. And so we said, can we use our insights to actually build a product that solves this particular need? Where an individual, like a coach, anyone can sell their services online, knowledge services online, without having to be beholden to a marketplace model. And so that's where Let's Level Up was born, essentially, or rather evolved into or pivoted, was we then became that software. And so today the software allows you to build and run your entire business online through a variety of different things, right? From marketing and sales to actually delivering content and managing content and managing your sort of customer base, the end-to-end ticketing, pricing, the whole spiel. But the unique insight we had there again was while the tool is great, what someone needs is also personalized support. And so that's why we built a whole layer of intelligence on top of that. So now our AI, which is called Nova, she sits inside our Let's Level Up platform. And what Nova is doing is it's collecting thousands and thousands and thousands of data points of the best practices that coaches have on the internet, the best practice that we're seeing. And it's now going to coach you as a user of the platform on what's next. This is the landing page copy that's actually going to convert better. Use this. This is the copy or email sequence that's going to actually drive a 20% open rate because we have tons. And that is being plugged into Let's Level Up. And so that's, again, a very big differentiator. It's taken a lot of time to build, a lot of resource to build. But we're building that. And so Nova sits inside this platform now, and it will not only coach you, but also act as a co-pilot. So this will be like, hey, I think this is the wording that's required. Would you like me to execute on it? Hit yes. So now in a click of a button, you as a coach, a course creator, a consultant is now going on Let's Level Up, and in a few clicks is building their entire business. And most importantly, is generating leads for that business. And so that's what Let's Level Up does.
That's amazing. That's the best summarization you could have given for your company. One of the things that you said, which is quite interesting, and I would like to have slight clarification on as well, is so marketplace versus Let's Level Up. I would essentially think the biggest fundamental gap or problem a marketplace is solving is sales and marketing. It's driving business to me as a creator. But here on Let's Level Up, I have to do the heavy lifting. I have to spend ad dollars. I have to place those ads and whatever. So how does Let's Level Up help me from a sales and marketing angle?
So our platform actually is built ground up to help you solve exactly that.
Okay.
So what we've actually noticed is a coach, a consultant, a course creator needs to have that fundamental muscle of being able to market and sell themselves. Otherwise, they're not going to be successful. Because imagine being beholden to a marketplace that changes the algorithm. Today you're getting sales, tomorrow there's no sales. Then what? And so there's this constant cycle of feast and famine that a coach, a consultant, or a course creator is facing. And you don't want that. You want to be able to say predictably that I can generate 100 potential prospects that are interested in my, let's say, coaching program or course. I have a 10% conversion rate. I'll have 10 phone calls. I'll probably get 2 clients. So I know that I know my numbers, I know my metrics, and now I know that I can convert them. And I can sustain myself regularly on these 2. Now, how do I increase that? Well, I know the levers that I'm pulling, so I can get an output. And that's where analytics, the data, the AI, Nova comes in as well. Because we have now collected thousands and thousands and thousands of data points on what's actually selling. How do you sell? So what's the sales technique that is used? How do you conduct a sales call? And how does that feed back into Nova to then give you feedback? And so now Nova sits in the platform and giving you real-time updates, analytics. It's telling you what to do, what not to do. And it's coaching you through the entire process, right from marketing to building your creative on Facebook, to how to market on Facebook, if Facebook's your way of going, to then taking that sales call and how do you sell to someone and then giving you feedback on it. Because there's no better way to grow your own business than learning these fundamental skills. And people are learning that. People are understanding that at a very intrinsic level. This is why you see other platforms like ConvertKit, for example, are thriving. And the reason for that is people want to own their audience. People want to start generating their leads and prospects to own them. Even today, a smart creator on YouTube is not beholden to YouTube anymore, because at the very end of YouTube, there'll be a call to action. What does a call to action say typically? Here is my free ebook, which is basically serves as a lead magnet, and I can go into the whole sales process. But what is that doing? It's asking you for your name, email ID, phone number in exchange for an ebook. What is that doing? It's helping me collect an email. What does that mean? Now I own that particular lead. It's mine. Tomorrow, YouTube can shut down, close its algorithm, shut shop, whatever. That lead, that list, that email list is mine. And if you look and if you talk to anyone in sales and marketing, the number one thing that your company has is that email list. That is the only thing that matters when you're selling, whether you're a small coaching company to a large B2B enterprise company selling software and complicated deep tech products. The number one thing that matters the most in sales and marketing is your lead list. And so if we've understood this at a very core level, then Let's Level Up was built from this very first principles approach, which is why every tool that we build, every AI iteration that we build solves this fundamental problem of how do I get leads and how do I convert those leads into paying clients. That's fundamentally what Let's Level Up solves for at the very core. Because the very core of any business is not necessarily the fulfilling of the business, because a coach is really good at that. It's about how do I get myself out there in the world? And that is the number one problem that anybody has. And a new coach today, try listing yourself on Udemy or Coursera. Just try it. How many sales are you going to realistically get? There's a frustration. There's a saturation. And that is why owning your audience has become the most important skill set that you can do today if you want to get into this knowledge space. This is a near approaching $1 trillion industry. So the demand for learning has just shot up dramatically. It's about whether you want to now put in a little bit of effort to build that audience as an expert or a course creator or a coach or a consultant.
Yeah, I think technology obviously has drastically changed over the years, especially in the last 18, 24 months with AI, ChatGPT coming in the forefront. I think the growth has just become even more exponential than what it was. And I completely agree with you. I think learning, this pod that we're doing is also one of the examples of how people are learning at speed as well. Owning the audience is super important. 100% agree with you on that. You're sitting on so many different platforms, a lot of creators. I have a new profound respect for creators, first of all.
Oh, 100%.
Creating content is easier said than done. I mean, I've been trying to do that for the past couple of months now, and it's bloody hard. So already that process is super difficult. Now, on top of that, distribution, in my opinion, is even harder. So, back in the days, people used to say, ideas are worthless, execution is everything. I believe execution today has become worthless. It's the attention.
Yeah.
If you can grab attention, how do you grab attention in this, ever-changing world and how fast things are moving? Our attention spans keep decreasing day by day. How do you grab attention? So I think, and that is why I asked you the sales and marketing aspect as well, and then you led on to the leads. I 100% agree with you from that perspective, because now you've grabbed that attention. And then off the back of it, how can you create value and then monetize and so on? Talk me through, so you're solving this problem, the grabbing attention or sales marketing problem for your creators. Obviously, you've solved that problem for yourself first. Talk me through your sales process and how and why is Let's Level Up winning today? What are you guys doing differently from any other platform? I mean, what are your levers?
Let's Level Up was built from a problem that we had. So we understand the market really well. So we understand what someone's going through, which means we come from a place of like authenticity. Like you can see it in my eyes and my soul that I know what I'm talking about, and I know that I can help you. No amount of marketing or sales will solve that problem. You have to first go through the shit to then talk about the shit and then eventually be the shit. And without that, everything else is just inauthentic as fuck. So the number one thing is we've done and we've gone through hell and we've learned it, and we now have a framework in place, which is what we're selling. Let's Level Up is built on that framework. It's our proprietary framework, and the AI is learning it at a much faster rate. So we're not just bunging in AI because we want to be that AI company. AI is solving a need at scale because we've already proven it when we were not scaling and doing things that were not scaling. What we do differently is we understand at Let's Level Up, like if we're preaching marketing and sales, we should be very good at marketing and sales. And the two ways of thinking about lead generation. And one of the ways that I think about it is like you have a top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Top of funnel is basically everything that you have from all your social media posts, and you can do it in a couple of ways. You can do it through referrals, you can do it through organic content, you can do it through paid content. We saw that like if you're selling a higher ticket product with a large enough market set, Meta ads, for example, Facebook, Instagram, are doing tremendously well. So today, you don't necessarily need a massive, massive audience. If you're able to post consistently, even a few times a week, and supplement that with running ads, highly targeted, highly specific ads that call out to your niche, you will generate leads. Now we can get into the nuances of what that looks like, but eventually the way I see it, any coaching business, any course creation business, any business in general is a funnel. That funnel has a few components to it. You need to offer something to them for free. It could be a video, it could be a lead magnet, just to prove that you know what you're talking about. That is where authenticity can actually shine through. That's number one. Number two is once I've collected that email and opt-in, can I now start giving you value through emails? And what does that value look like? If you're selling a higher ticket product, anywhere from $1,000 and above, that value comes through ideally a strategy phone call session, right? And so you would need a few salespeople or yourself initially to go through that with you, so that I can prove to you that I know what I'm talking about and I can take you on that journey. Sales is about going from point A to point B and making sure that I help you cross that bridge. And so the process in most cases is fairly simple. You come in through a lead magnet, which is a freebie or a lower ticket product. prove value through that product, use that product to get on a sales call, to then sell you a relatively higher ticket product that can solve another specific need. And it's a funnel that is time and time again tested, and it makes sense because of something that I call the ladder of trust. So think of the ladder of trust as literally a ladder. The lower rung of the ladder is your freebie. It could be your content or whatever, but you now need to capture that lead somewhere. So I need to now incentivize you. You're seeing my content, you're seeing my ad, to click on it. Because ultimately, what is marketing? It's getting you to the top of the funnel for your sales funnel. So now how am I driving traffic to the top of the funnel? Ads, content, video, whatever. I like Asim. Cool. Now let me now explore what Asim has to offer. I'm going to go on his profile, or there's a call to action that says, download my free ebook, 7 steps to becoming a better entrepreneur, a better leader. Cool. I've downloaded that. Now, if your lead magnet, it's called a lead magnet because it's attracting a lead, is shit, you've lost the lead. So you need to be authentic. You need to have a quality lead magnet. Lead magnets could also be products. Ours is a product as well. One of our funnels is the way you enter the funnel is a product. You can use our product. Nova comes in at a premium to use Nova, but you can use, that's the AI piece, but you can use our product and get a lot of value, a lot of training material for practically nothing at no cost. Let us prove our value to you. And then we'll prove ourselves once more to say, look, if you want personalized support, personalized assistance, REI can help you. Let's jump on a call. Let's look at your needs, and we'll provide you the entire personalized support and service. And so then you jump on a call, and then you explain the value to them. And there's an entire process on how to conduct a sales call, which we can dive into. And then once you have that entire sales call done, you then pitch them the higher price product and you close them. So you see how we've built the ladder. Most businesses, and even coaching businesses today, do that exact thing. Free product or a free tier, lower ticket product, higher ticket product. And some people who have built authority and brand go even higher ticket products, which are like retreats and masterminds. And so that's how you build. And price increases, but price is a function of value. And it's a function of trust. And when I can signal trust, and when I can get you to trust me because I'm authentic and genuine, and I say what I'm going to do and then do it, I move up that ladder. And because I'm giving you more value and your perceived value is higher than that, I'm justifying that price point. And so price is then a function of the value that you're providing through that ladder of trust.
I love that. So Varun, talk to me about the growth of Let's Level Up. From inception, when did you guys incorporate, and year-on-year growth, where you guys are at currently?
So about 2.5 years old company. Growth has been at least I'll tell you, we were working with 3 or 4 coaches back 2.5 years ago. We've scaled this to over, now it's close to 1,000 coaches.
Wow. That's super impressive.
Team went from 3 or 4 people now to a team of about 20, 25 people, including some part-time. We've grown over 100% year on year, but I say year on year, but we've been around for 2.5 years. The first year was a lot of it was us growing really fast, and it was a wild experience. We made every possible mistake in the book, but we had a really, really good and strong co-founder who was, and he is quite mature, so he's gone through a lot of the mistakes. And so having that as a bouncing board for us was really, I'm very grateful for that. So circumvented a lot of mistakes. But the inevitability of scaling fast and scaling and having these ambitions is the price you pay for that is comes in because you don't have the correct infrastructure, operational challenges, people challenges, team dynamics. At least I wasn't that prepared for. because all you want to do as a founder is just grow the company, and you hope that things will work itself out, and that's very, very far from the reality of what actually happens. So eventually we got to a point where it did sting. So I often say, like, first year was massive growth, next year is just fixing the growth and fixing the inherent systems that so yeah, it's been a massive learning curve, but yeah, grateful to go through that journey with the people that I have with me and the people that we serve.
A lot of companies, when they start, I think, I don't know really what the stats are, but I mean, majority of the companies, as we know, on a very high level, fail in the first, let's say, 2 or 3 years. You guys are obviously in a very fortunate position that you guys are growing, scaling. Talk to me about, and you guys, I think, have done a funding round, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
One round,
small one, yeah.
Small round. So talk to me about that round. Obviously, we spoke about revenue, how it's the lifeline of any business, but also, funds within a business is also super important. Either you bootstrapping, generating revenue and then reinvesting that revenue, or taking external funding. Obviously, in your case, you've gone the external route. So talk to me a little bit about that. How is your funding journey like? How much did you raise? How did you raise? How did you even start raising? And why did you raise? Because I see a lot of, it'll be nice to hear your thought process around it. There's a big wave on social media where a lot of people are talking against, VC funding, VC funded businesses, or don't raise, bootstrap, and all that. So obviously you've gone the other direction. Talk to me about the thought process you had to go and take this direction, number one. And secondly, also, how has that journey been? How much you've raised, and how have you raised?
So not all businesses are VC fundable businesses. So what a VC is looking for is almost like a 10x return on what they put in. And if you have like a lifestyle business, or if it's a business that's, when I say lifestyle business, it's like it's supporting your lifestyle. It's like cash flow for you. Then I don't think the VC route makes any sense. But if you want to grow a technology company at the pace and ambition that we have to grow it at, you need the upfront capital to actually invest in technology and what we're trying to build. And that requires that upfront investment, which is why you will raise money in the first place. And there's the ambition and the incentives are aligned that we want to grow, and we want to grow fast, and we want to grow big. And that is why raising VC money made sense for us. It does not necessarily need to make sense for a lot of the businesses, and a lot of the businesses can be bootstrapped. But especially when you have an upfront investment to put in, and you know what you're doing, and you've proven at least at the initial stages that you know what you're doing, then it just makes sense to take that capital and put it in the right direction so that you can then grow really quickly. And so that's kind of the thought process that we had. How did I start my fundraising journey? It was a really dark time. This was a fundraising winter. Almost, I started with like not knowing anybody. I'm a Parsi, a Zoroastrian, and so there's a small community of us in London. And I said, well, Parsis are fairly accomplished individuals, especially those that are living in London. So I connected the two dots together. I was like, if I have to raise an angel round, I don't know anybody. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to open my WhatsApp phone book and I'm going to look at every possible person. I think I reached out to you as well at some point. And then I was like, just kept messaging people. I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is my pitch deck. This is blah, blah, blah. Would you be interested? Even if I got like a remote sign that someone's interested, I would put them like on an Excel spreadsheet or like just like make a note of it saying interested. And I would do that time and time again. And then I go on to someone else. I went to this sort of Parsi meetup and I got introduced to different people, networked my way, started pitching my idea. One person was very interested, or at least showed some sign of interest. In my mind, I was like, oh, this guy's very interested. He happened to be a founder as well, and so we stayed in touch. And one thing that I did was I constantly kept following up. So every single time that I had an update, I would just share it. At one point, I was like, okay, I have enough to know that this is potentially going to work. You never know it's going to work. Even today, we don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
But there's some conviction that's building. I said, look, this is what's happening. I kept in touch. I'm raising money. So I sort of, he said, I'm potentially interested in putting some money in. So let me know how the round is going. Because you have to build a round, right? Like, especially an angel round, usually maybe a VC will come in and put some money in, and then the remainder of the round will probably need to be closed by some other angels. So that's kind of what happened. We put, I started sort of just literally knocking on doors. Any person that showed any sign of interest, I was like, oh wow, I'm gonna like keep pestering you now with updates, and hopefully you can see momentum, and then that excites you. And so that was what I did. Just kept sending updates to people. Reached out to people like crazy on LinkedIn. I went through accelerators, incubators, and there was a point in my fundraising journey where I had reached out to so many people, but like you then wake up to like rejection. So every single day there was rejection. And it's extremely debilitating because all you're doing is just facing that word no, and you're saying that word no time after time after time. And it's like, I don't know, like I probably cried the most during that period. It's not fun. It's excruciatingly painful. And it's worse because you're away from home. Again, that whole loneliness creeps in. Most people don't know what you're going through. Even you don't know what you're going through because like it's difficult to process this. And you're like, is this it? Like, will my dream die even before I even have some chance of making it work? And you keep going. Went back to the person that said, I'm interested. And then simultaneously we got a call from another VC. We got the term sheet from that VC, and just before we were signing it, they pulled the term sheet out. Said change of plan.
Wow.
So the term sheet gets pulled. This is in September, 2 years back, I think 1.5 years back. I'm like, fuck, this is it. It's over. I was like, what do I do? I said, I kept applying, still kept applying. Next VC comes in. They're tenterhooks because it's October, September, October, November, November, December, people sort of die down. And I was like, but I need to raise this round. I want to raise this round before this year ends. And I was on a family vacation in December. And that December I spent nonstop just fundraising because I was desperate. I needed it to work. This had to work. And one thing led to the next, and conversation after conversation, pitch after pitch, and then this one firm said yes. So then I took that term sheet, went back to the person that pulled the term sheet, and I said, look, we have an investor coming in. Would you want to come in? And then the round started building. And I made the phone call to my the first person in the Parsi community that said yes to me. And it so happened that as he said yes, I said, the round is building. Would you be interested in putting in? He said, put me in. And he gave a generous amount. I said, great. And he said, I want you to talk to a friend of mine. And if he likes your business, I'll double my investment.
Wow.
So let's do it. That guy is now our third co-founder. He's now also he's also an investor in the company. And we decided to reject VC funding.
No way.
And go down the path of building the round through the angel route. And it has been the best decision that I've ever made. So we are VC backed, but there's only one VC today on our cap table. A bunch of other smaller investors and two lead angel investors, or as I like to call them, super angels. And I think that's been the best decision ever, because not only do they bring the expertise, but they bring the love and the care of a human being. You can actually go to them and say, like, I'm feeling shit, I'm feeling scared, I don't know what to do. And because they've gone through the process of building companies before, they actually know what you're going through. And that is so important in an investor that people don't even talk about. But knowing that someone has your back is so important, especially the fact that like they're giving you their money, their own hard-earned money. They're taking a bet on you. And I have this deep sense of not disappointing the people that believe in me. And so to have that person say, it's okay, you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing, it's sometimes everything you need. And I'm grateful for that decision that we made.
It's immensely invaluable. I don't think you can term this person as a super angel, because you didn't just get that support system, you also have that person as one of your co-founders now, and I think that is just invaluable.
If you believe in God, Asim, or the universe, or whatever, but there was a point in my life 2.5 years back where I was literally on the floor, like bawling my eyes out. I was crying, and I was like, God, if you're like listening to this, please send some help. Like, please send your angel somewhere. And he sent it through this angel investor.
Oh my God, that's magical. That's magical. You've earned a lot of brownie points now in front of this person's eyes. But I think, definitely I can see your eyes as well, and you're speaking from your heart. So what's next for Let's Level Up? So you guys are on a growth trajectory. You guys are exponentially growing. Early days, 2.5 years. You're still not quote unquote out of the red line, because there's a lot of things can change, dynamics and so on. I believe you have a stronger team obviously than you did when you first started. But yeah, what's next? What's the aspiration? And I'm not talking about 10 years from now and build a unicorn, and yes, we all want that, but what's the next year, the next 2 years looking like for Let's Level Up?
I want to go back to fundamentals in the business. I think that's, if anything, building a business has taught me is this. One of my investors has this very interesting analogy of a lemonade stand. He said business can be boiled down to a lemonade stand. It's the cost of making the lemonade, where you put that lemonade stand, and how much you can charge for that. And it's just it's fundamentally distribution. It's fundamentally cost of goods and the cost of building the product, and how much selling it for. And so that's only three things that I genuinely care about. And underlying all of that are people. I spend a lot of time hiring now. I think I've become pretty good at it. I've learned a lot through this process, and I think my focus is like building a team that can take this forward. I think that's one of the things that I'm really focusing on, is like, can I invest in the right kinds of people now? Can I build the right set of values? And can I get people that are really inspired, but then also work? And I've often found that there are two types of people that will work in early stage companies. One are the people that like to do their own thing, and that's it. They're specialists. And then there are people that like to do their own thing. They're specialists, but don't mind, helping out. I think I want to focus on the latter types of people. There are also moaners and moaners that give action. And the moaners that give action are the ones that will give you the really hard advice and feedback that you need, but will also then help you execute on a solution. And cutting the first part out quickly really is important. And I've learned that the hard way. So, we can talk about a lot of team building and what I've learned in there, but I think team is one very important thing. Building the product, we're far from, there, like we're just about getting started. So we're obviously continually improving the product. And then focusing a lot on like the distribution element, which is looking at different traction channels that are working, right from like tightening up the sales process to the marketing place. Like we've come to a point where like we've realized that like making data-driven decisions is very important. And so like, how do you set up that infrastructure? It took a long time to figure that out. But we're now at a place where we can actually understand what is happening in the business, rather than, okay, something is working, rather than like, okay, so something's working. Okay, what is working? And like, why is it working? Because the worst thing you can do in a business is build something, but don't know why it's working. Equally, why is it not working? And so as long as the data can tell a story and then we can double down on it, that's super, super important for us. So just going back to the fundamentals really, because it's in the fundamentals that you can actually see that exponential growth and keep growing. So That's my focus.
And is another round on the horizon?
May or may not be. The goal for this company is to not require external capital, and I think it's thanks, and I can't believe I'm admitting this, but it's thanks to that third co-founder that I'm talking about, who's got the experience, who's built massive companies, that it's important to realize that not relying on VC or any sort of external funding is very good for a company, because the minute you can start self-financing through your own cash flow, that's the time you're truly free. Of course, that means priorities might change, which means we focus more on revenue, we focus more on profitability, we focus more on breaking even, and that's a big goal for me, because the minute we can start breaking even or making a profit, that additional amount of cash can then go into refunding the operations rather than constantly having to rely on external funding. Let alone the fact that there's dilution effects and whatnot. But I think there's something magical about it, to be able to be self-reliant.
Yeah. Fundamentally, I think any business, I mean, the focus of any business should be not just generating revenue, but eventually profiting. I mean, you have to build profit. Build profit. That's super important. But don't you also think you should also raise when you don't need the money?
So this is what I constantly go back and forth with the person I was talking about. Yes and no, because one of the things that happens when you raise when you don't need to is you then become less fiscally disciplined. When you have an abundance of cash, you start making stupid decisions. And you might sit here telling me that doesn't happen, but I can sit here telling you that does happen. And no matter how disciplined you think you are, the discipline that comes when you're, close to the wire, and the decisions you make and the things you think through are very different than when you have millions sitting in the bank. And that level of execution and that level of tenacity, that level of being focused when your ass is on fire is a very different feeling than when you have a cushion. And sometimes it's good to be close to that and to experience it, because you then know what are the true decisions and levers you need to pull. And I think that discipline that brings you is very, very important.
I agree. And I can relate as well. I've been in scenarios where we've come so close, not having money in the bank, not being able to make bank for salaries. And that is when you become the most creative and the most hardworking human being on this planet.
What did you do? Tell me some stories from the trenches.
You just make things work. I can't pinpoint a particular story, but just on a high level, it's just mindset. It's just mindset of, either you do it or you die, and you don't want to die. You do whatever it takes not to die, and you just become super creative. Like that 1 pound. Somehow you're able to stretch that 1 pound so much longer than you ever did. Like you just find creative ways to do it. And I think it also comes with a price. I remember during COVID, we were trying to raise and we couldn't raise. The timing was bad and whatever. And really, I had to take a decision where I had to speak to our core team members and just tell them, guys, we have a problem. Salary issue. Can't make bank for salaries. And that is not being creative. That is just being real. Can't make bank for salaries the next couple of months. I'm not going to pay myself. I'm not going to pay you guys. That's it. So they're still here. And I think that also, not everyone can be in a place to say yes to that, because I appreciate everyone has, different responsibilities and, all that. And everyone has a different, things going on in their personal life. But if you are able to get through that also, in hindsight, today, the bond that we have together, no money could ever buy that bond. It is the lack of money we were able to build that bond. So I think it's quite interesting as well. And honestly, being honest, transparent, communicator as the founder CEO, I think that's super critical and super important for the longevity of your business. Just say it as it is. A lot of founders are also scared, and I appreciate, there's some things that are absolutely sensitive, but for the most part, 99% of it, you should be sharing. And I think there's no such thing as oversharing when it comes to a founder or CEO. The more you share, the more opportunities you have to build those bonds with not just your core team members, but the signal that you're sending to the entire organization. And I think, it also comes from a place where, a lot of founders don't maybe share enough from the scare where, oh my God, if I'm going to say this or that, this person is going to leave me. The person's going to leave you either ways if they want to leave you. I think your biggest advantage is for you to be as authentic. We spoke about building a personal brand or building a lead magnet or building a business, really is being authentic. I think that's super important. And, that open communication also signals to that individual that you actually respect that individual. You're giving that individual that sense of respect, even if it's your co-founder. So from scarcity, what I've really learned or what I've gained is not having a choice but to be honest and truthful to the team members. And I think that inevitably has enabled me to build that bond and that trust with my team. And like we said before this as well, one of the most critical aspects to any business is the team. And really, if you look at, company, you have a company, I have a company. What does company really mean? Company is a collective of people. That is it. I'm in your company now, So I think that fundamentally, if we appreciate and understand, everything else is just a byproduct. So I can't pinpoint just one aspect, but I think overall, yes. However, on the flip side, I have another thought process around it as well. So yes, that scarcity is important. And off the back of that, there's creativity and you just make things work and whatever. But there's also a fine line. There's a balance around it, So if you're always in that scarcity mode, you're also operating in a different dynamics.
100%.
Now, if you're saying that this is not a lifestyle business and you want to scale and you want to do all that, you do need to have the leverage, and you do need to have that luxury as well. So again, there's a fine line between what you can and cannot do, and when you should raise and not raise. And every business is different. Everyone's aspiration is also different. And also, in the founding team members, I believe it's also good to have that yin yang. Because the last thing you want is everybody just thinking around the same
group think.
Because it's a group thing, and then how does that help you level up? So I think it's good that you have that yin yang, and then collectively doing what is right by business, because you do have a duty towards your business and your stakeholders as well to do the absolute right thing. But you guys are doing the right thing, obviously, so far, and hence why you guys are where you are today. Warren, someone who is so desperate, doesn't know what the hell to do, maybe feels it doesn't fit in, or is watching a lot of Bollywood movies and has an aspiration to move to London, but perhaps doesn't have the means. And I'm going to talk about the means, and I think that's super important, because a lot of people actually don't have the means, doesn't have the means, but really has that inspiration and really wants to do something. How do you think they could do something to change their lives? And what would you tell that person to be able to start with that thought process and then land where you are today?
I think one is have a rough idea of what you want to do. It doesn't have to be a perfect idea. But when I say what you want to do is like, do you have any tangible skill sets that you can use to your advantage? And it depends on whether you want to go to university or whether you want to just, work in London. But is there a way you can prove to the world or to an employer that you have an undeniable stack of evidence of your skill set? Whether that's talking, whether that's marketing, whether that's sales, whatever. And if you can figure out a way to learn that, because most things are available for free online. So there is a way to figure out a skill if you want to learn it, if you really want to learn it. And then build a portfolio and portfolio of work, or what I like to call proof of work. So today when we hire, I don't look at your CV. I don't care about your CV. I don't care where you've graduated from. I genuinely wouldn't care. What I do care about is what's your past work. And it doesn't have to be past experience, past work. So build a stack of undeniable proof that like, I know what I'm talking about. And then can you get really good at it? And I leverage that to start making money. Make that money or leverage that to get a job in a place that you want to go to. Maybe it's a long shot, maybe it's not. Maybe you start off as a freelancer for the company and then the company grows and you grow with it and you've got people from places and relocated them to London. And so you start doing that. The one skill I would definitely tell anybody that's looking to do this is to sell and sell yourself really well. I do think that a lot of life is sales, whether you're presenting yourself to people or talking about yourself and your work. Learn to sell, and that means selling through the DMs, selling through emails. Send tons and tons of emails if you have to, and follow up relentlessly. Because if this is something that you truly, truly, truly want, and how does want come? How does desire come? Like certain people desire certain things, and it originates from somewhere. You were probably meant for it, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have desired it in the first place. So if that desire is really there, then find a way to start cold calling, cold emailing, cold DMing people, and just really, really dive deep and ask them for jobs, for work. Now, obviously, if you want to go down the university path, there's scholarships and stuff like that available. A lot of the time, religious communities, if you're part of religious communities, they will have scholarships. So inquire about that. There's financial aid available at university. Inquire about that. But in terms of like proof of work and building that up, I think today more and more people, and I'm sure you'll appreciate that, is like you much rather have a proof of work than a CV.
100%.
Because you want to see me as me and what I've done, and therefore what value I can add to you and your company than anything else. And if I can prove that to you through my proof of work, then why wouldn't you hire me? Why? And so if you flip it, it's how do you build that proof? So if you're a graphic designer, learn a lot of graphic design, not courses. Don't show me that you've taken courses. Show me the work. Show me your Fiverr profile. Show me what you've done with Upwork. Get a testimonial. And if that testimonial happens to be a client, can I get them on a retainer? Can I then build my own MRR of my service? Can I start collecting funds? Can I then use those funds to then go and travel or relocate? And maybe that's not possible. But maybe can I get a way where I can impress a CEO or someone from a company and work my way through there? The internet has, for all its negative reasons, has leveled the playing field. But and quite honestly, I think Asim, the bar is so low right now in terms of competition. Like just showing up puts you probably at 1%. Just showing up and going through that suck of like sending those emails, getting rejected, but still going 50 emails a day, 100 emails a day, just doing that again and again and again. You're probably already at 1%. That's what I would do.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
I think so.
I completely agree. The bar is so low. I think life really is rigged in your favor. There's just three things you need: mindset, hard work, consistency. And I keep trying to remind myself that every single day as well. Because, I mean, we say, it's just doing, but doing is the hard part.
Yeah.
Doing for a consistent period of time over and over again.
Harder.
That is harder.
Yeah.
So when you look at, getting in shape, for example, getting in shape is hard, but staying in shape for the rest of your life, that is harder.
Yeah.
So I think it comes to that, but yeah, I think the biggest barrier really is ourselves. I think you're a testament to that. I also came to this country without any money, didn't have any route to a visa, and then things just start aligning as you take that one step and the second step and the third step. But yeah, I think to have that tenacity to just keep going, I think that's super important. And I think anyone listening to this pod, if there's anything that if you just did one thing, or if you just took away one thing from this podcast, I think that would be just keep going. Whatever you're doing, just keep going.
Keep swimming.
And Varun, thank you so much for once again.
No, Asim, it's
Coming
always
to
a
the
pleasure.
second pod or the third pod.
It's always
many
a
more
pleasure.
conversations.
It's always a pleasure.
If I ever have a setup where I need a co-host, I know who to call. That'll be you.
You bet.
Well, thank you so much, Varun. This was an absolute pleasure talking to you. And if people have any comments, any suggestions, they know where to reach out. They also know where to find you, Varun Balsara. You can find him on LinkedIn. He's very active these days. He's getting more and more active. Let's level up. If you guys are a course creator, you know where to find Varun,
or a coach,
or a consultant. There you go. He's Let's Level Up is a platform of many offerings. But Varun, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure talking to you. And until next time.
Likewise, Asim. Thank you for having me.